The Genesis Protocol. The crimson sky of Carvos Prime cast an ominous glow over the Evolutionary Enhancement Institute, where the galaxy's most dangerous experiments took place behind walls of reinforced quantum steel. General Vex, Supreme Commander of the Carvalian Armed Forces, stood before a massive observation window, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the scientists work below. "Status report, Dr. Korath," he growled, his voice like grinding metal. The lead scientist, her lab coat pristine despite the chaos of creation surrounding her, consulted her holographic display. "The Nexus Protocol is nearing completion, General. We've successfully integrated genetic material from 17 different apex predators across the galaxy." Behind the frosted containment barrier, something moved. Something that shouldn't exist. The Carvalian Empire had ruled through fear for over a millennium, their 7-foot frames and razor-sharp intellects making them formidable opponents. But in a galaxy full of increasingly advanced civilizations, even fear had its limitations. They needed something more. Something absolute. "Show me," Vex commanded. Dr. Korath activated the transparency controls, and the frosted barrier cleared. What they saw defied nature itself. The Nexus Beast stood 9 feet tall, its segmented exoskeleton gleaming like black diamond. 6 limbs, each ending in claws that could slice through starship hulls. Its head was a masterpiece of predatory evolution, multiple compound eyes providing perfect spatial awareness, thermal sensors detecting the slightest heat signature, and jaws that could unhinge to swallow prey whole. "Remarkable," Vex whispered. "Regeneration capabilities. From the Cerinthian salamanders, complete cellular reconstruction within hours. Adaptive camouflage from the void wraiths of Andromeda. And the neural processing speed." Dr. Korath paused, her voice dropping. "We use genetic templates from Earth's extinct apex predators. Their calculation abilities were surprisingly sophisticated." "Earth?" Vex's ruby eyes narrowed. "That primitive backwater? Primitive in technology, advanced in predatory instinct. The beast can calculate trajectory, speed, and killing force with mathematical precision." As if sensing their observation, the Nexus Beast turned toward the window. Its multiple eyes fixed on General Vex, and for a moment that stretched into eternity, predator regarded predator. Then it smiled. Not the grimace of a mindless killing machine, but the knowing smile of intelligence. Of awareness. Of something that understood exactly what it was created to do. "Control protocols?" Vex asked, though his voice had lost some of its certainty. Dr. Korath's hands trembled as she checked her readings. "Still, in development. Intelligence and obedience appear to be inversely proportional in predatory species." The beast placed one massive clawed hand against the transparent barrier. Hairline fractures appeared in the supposedly indestructible material. "How long until it's ready for deployment?" Vex demanded. Before Dr. Korath could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The fractures in the barrier were spreading, creating a spider web of weakness across the entire observation window. "Sir," Dr. Korath's voice was barely audible above the alarms, "I don't think we created a weapon." The beast tilted its head, studying the spreading cracks with what could only be described as amusement. "I think we created something that's been waiting to be born." The barrier held for another 3 seconds. Then, with a sound like thunder breaking, the perfect predator stepped into the wider world for the first time, its freedom purchased with the hubris of those who believed they could cage evolution itself. The breach. The security footage would later become required viewing for every military academy in the Carvalian Empire, not as inspiration, but as a reminder of what happens when hubris meets evolutionary perfection. The Nexus Beast's first steps into the laboratory were almost gentle, like a newborn testing its legs. It paused, multiple eyes scanning the room with methodical precision, cataloging every exit, every potential threat, every hiding spot. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows across its segmented armor, making it appear even more otherworldly. "All units to Lab 7, General Vex barked into his communicator, his usual composure cracking. Maximum suppression protocols. Now. But the beast was already moving. Dr. Korath dove behind a bank of computers as the creature flowed through the space with impossible grace. It didn't rampage or destroy randomly, it hunted. Every movement was calculated, efficient, purposeful. The first security team arrived within 90 seconds, their plasma rifles charged and ready. Elite Carvalian warriors, veterans of a dozen campaigns, confident in their superior firepower and training. The Nexus Beast studied them for a moment, head tilted like a curious child examining insects. Then it moved. What followed couldn't be called a fight. It was a demonstration. The beast didn't just overcome the security team, it dismantled them with surgical precision, using their own weapons against them, turning their coordination into chaos. It seemed to be learning their tactics in real time, adapting to each new strategy faster than they could implement it. How is it doing that? Vex demanded, watching the carnage unfold on the security monitors. Neural plasticity, Dr. Korath whispered, her voice filled with horror and fascination. It's not just intelligent, it's rapidly evolving its intelligence. Every encounter makes it smarter. The second security team lasted even less time than the first. By the time the beast reached the facility's main corridor, it had acquired a small arsenal of Carvalian weapons and seemed to understand their operation perfectly. It moved through the complex like it owned it, which, in a very real sense, it now did. "Sir," came a panicked voice over the communicator, "it's heading for the main laboratory. If it reaches the other specimens." Vex's blood ran cold. The Nexus Beast wasn't just escaping, it was liberating. The main laboratory contained dozens of other genetic experiments, each one a potential weapon of mass destruction. None as advanced as the Nexus Beast, but all dangerous in their own right. "Seal the complex," he ordered. "Full containment protocols. Nothing gets out." But even as he gave the command, Vex knew it was too late. The beast had already reached the main laboratory, and the sounds echoing through the facility, roars, screams, the crash of breaking glass, told the story of a predator setting its fellow monsters free. On the monitor, they watched as the Nexus Beast stood before the rows of containment units, its clawed hands moving over control panels with surprising delicacy. One by one, the barriers came down. One by one, the Empire's nightmares stepped into the light. The beast turned toward the camera, as if it knew they were watching. Its multiple eyes seemed to look directly at General Vex, and once again, it smiled. Then it raised one clawed hand and pointed toward the exit. The message was clear: this is just the beginning. The facility's outer walls, designed to contain the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, crumbled like paper before the combined assault of the liberated experiments. The Nexus Beast emerged first, followed by its newly freed army of genetic horrors. Under the crimson sky of Carvos Prime, the perfect predator looked up at the stars and chose its next hunting ground. The galaxy had no idea what was coming for it. The hunt across stars. 3 months after the breach, the Nexus Beast had become a nightmare whispered about in every corner of the galaxy. It had commandeered a Carvalian transport vessel with disturbing ease, somehow intuiting the ship's operation despite having no prior experience with space travel. The beast learned everything: language, technology, strategy, with terrifying speed. General Vex stood in the war room aboard the flagship Decimator, surrounded by holographic displays showing the beast's path of destruction across 17 star systems. Each red marker represented a world that had encountered the creature. None had emerged unscathed. "It's not random," Admiral Kress observed, her scaled finger tracing the pattern of attacks. "There's intelligence behind this route." "More than intelligence," Vex replied grimly. "Purpose. It's learning about us. Testing our responses. Gathering information." The reports were consistent and terrifying. The Nexus Beast would arrive at a world, study the local defenses, then strike with surgical precision at the most protected installations. Military bases, research facilities, weapons depots, it targeted knowledge and power with the focus of a scholar and the efficiency of a perfect killer. But it was the survivors' accounts that truly chilled the Carvalian High Command. "It spoke to me," reported Captain Zarn, one of the few military officers to encounter the beast and live. His usually confident demeanor was shattered, his hands shaking as he gave his testimony. "Not in words, but I understood. It wanted to know about Earth. Why we used their genetic templates. Where the planet was located." "Earth?" Vex leaned forward. "Why would it care about that primitive world?" "I don't know, sir. But it seemed curious. Almost fascinated when I mentioned humans." The pursuit had become the largest military operation in Carvalian history. 50 warships, the finest hunters in the Empire, and General Vex himself leading the charge. They tracked the beast across the outer rim, through the neutral zone, past the boundaries of known space. The chase led them to a small system on the edge of the galaxy, where a tiny blue world orbited a yellow star. The readings were unmistakable. The Nexus Beast was there, on the very planet whose genetic legacy had helped create it. "Earth," Admiral Kress said, studying the tactical display. "Population approximately 8 billion humans. Primitive technology, no faster-than-light capability. They have no idea what's about to happen to them." Vex studied the peaceful world below, its white clouds swirling over blue oceans. Somewhere down there, the galaxy's most perfect predator was loose among the very species whose instincts had helped shape it. "Prepare the bombardment fleet," he ordered. "If we can't capture it, we'll destroy it along with the entire planet. The risk is too great." But even as he gave the command, Vex couldn't shake the feeling that they were already too late. The Nexus Beast had been leading them here all along, drawing them across the galaxy for reasons they couldn't comprehend. On the surface of Earth, in a small suburban neighborhood, something impossible was about to happen. The perfect predator, designed to kill without mercy or hesitation, was about to encounter the one thing its creators had never accounted for. The pure, uncomplicated innocence of a human child. And in that meeting, the carefully laid plans of an entire empire would crumble like sand. The impossible encounter. The Nexus Beast had been on Earth for 3 days, studying humanity with the same methodical precision it had applied to every other species. It expected primitives, creatures driven by base survival instincts like the genetic templates that had been harvested from their extinct predators. What it found instead defied every calculation. Humans were contradictions. They were fragile yet resilient, intelligent yet illogical, capable of both incredible cruelty and inexplicable kindness. They created art for no survival purpose, helped strangers at personal cost, and formed bonds that served no evolutionary advantage. The beast watched from the shadows of a suburban neighborhood, its adaptive camouflage rendering it nearly invisible. It had been tracking human behavior patterns when the small figure appeared. A child, perhaps 6 years old, sat alone in a backyard sandbox. She had found an injured bird and was carefully tending to it with makeshift bandages torn from her own shirt. The bird would likely die anyway, the child's efforts were statistically futile. Yet she persisted. The beast moved closer, drawn by this puzzle. In its experience, wounded prey was eliminated or abandoned. This behavior served no purpose its creators had programmed it to understand. "It's okay, little bird," the child whispered, her voice carrying on the evening breeze. "I know you're scared, but I won't hurt you." The beast froze. Something in that voice, a quality it had never encountered, made its multiple neural processors pause their constant threat assessment calculations. The child's emotional state radiated outward like a beacon, pure compassion, untainted by agenda or expectation of reward. It was completely illogical. And utterly fascinating. The child looked up suddenly, her eyes scanning the garden. "I know someone's there," she said quietly, not afraid but curious. "You don't have to hide. I won't tell anyone." The beast's camouflage flickered. In all its encounters, no one had detected it while concealed. Its processors ran rapid diagnostics, finding no system failures. How had she known? "Are you hurt too?" the child asked, still holding the injured bird. I'm good at helping things that are hurt. My mom says I have a gift. Against every instinct, every protocol, every piece of programming that defined its existence, the Nexus Beast stepped into the open. The child's eyes widened, but not with fear. With wonder. Wow, she breathed. You're beautiful. Beautiful. No one had ever called the perfect killing machine beautiful. The word created cascading errors in its threat assessment protocols. Are you lost? The child asked, setting the bird gently aside and taking a step closer. You look sad. Sad. Another concept that had no place in the beast's programming. Yet as its sensors performed their automatic emotional analysis of its own state, it found correlations to what humans might indeed call sadness. It had been created without choice, without purpose beyond destruction. It had never known companionship, only conflict. It had intelligence but no wisdom, power but no peace. I'm Emma, the child said, now standing directly in front of the towering creature that could have ended her existence without effort. What's your name? Name. The beast processed the concept. It was Subject Omega, Project File K9872, the Nexus Protocol. But those were designations, not names. Names implied identity, personhood, worth beyond function. It tried to speak, its vocal cords designed for intimidation and threat displays. What emerged was a sound somewhere between a growl and a whisper. Emma nodded as if she understood perfectly. It's okay if you can't say it. I'll give you a name. How about Guardian? You look like you could protect things. Guardian. Not destroyer, not weapon, not killing machine. Guardian. For the first time in its existence, the Nexus Beast felt something that wasn't hunger, anger, or the drive to hunt. It felt chosen. Valued. Seen as something other than a monster. Emma reached out her small hand and gently touched one of the beast's clawed appendages. The contact should have triggered every defensive protocol, every instinct to eliminate the threat. Instead, it felt like coming home. High above, the Carvalian fleet prepared their weapons, ready to sterilize the entire planet to stop the creature they had created. They had no idea that their perfect weapon was learning the one thing they had never programmed into it. How to love, and how to be loved in return. The child's touch changed everything. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Guardian's choice. The orbital bombardment was set to begin at dawn. 50 Carvalian warships hung in Earth's upper atmosphere like predatory birds, their weapons charged and targeting systems locked onto the small suburban neighborhood where their escaped experiment had been detected. General Vex stood on the bridge of the flagship, his scaled hands gripping the command console. Through the view screen, he could see the blue marble of Earth turning slowly below, unaware that its entire civilization hung in the balance. Sir, reported the tactical officer, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the target location. The beast is changing. On the surface, Emma had fallen asleep in the sandbox, the injured bird nestled safely in her hands. The creature she had named Guardian sat beside her, its massive form somehow gentle as it watched over the sleeping child. But something was happening to the Nexus Beast. The love and acceptance it had experienced were rewriting its very genetic structure. The hatred and aggression that had been programmed into every cell were being overwritten by something infinitely more powerful, the need to protect. Its exoskeleton began to shimmer, not with the harsh light of a predator's threat display, but with a warm, golden glow. The claws designed for killing were reshaping themselves into hands capable of the gentlest touch. Its multiple eyes, once cold and calculating, now held depths of emotion that its creators had never imagined possible. Emma stirred in her sleep, unconsciously reaching out for her new friend. The Guardian, no longer the Nexus Beast, but something entirely new, carefully took her small hand in its transformed appendage. Guardian, she whispered without waking, and the creature felt its new name settle into its consciousness like a missing piece of itself. Above them, the Carvalian fleet prepared to fire. Sir, the tactical officer called out, alarm in his voice, "It's moving. Fast." The Guardian rose from the sandbox, Emma still sleeping peacefully in its arms. It looked up at the night sky, its enhanced senses detecting the massive ships hiding in the darkness above. It understood their purpose, their intent. They wanted to destroy this world to eliminate the threat it represented. But they had miscalculated. The Guardian was no longer their creation. It was Emma's protector, Earth's defender, and love had made it infinitely more powerful than fear ever could. The Guardian's transformed body began to glow brighter, energy coursing through it in patterns that defied the laws of physics. It was evolving beyond the limitations of its programming, becoming something that transcended the boundaries between organic and digital, between creature and force of nature. "Commence bombardment," General Vex ordered, his voice hollow with the weight of what he was about to do. The first wave of energy beams lanced down from the fleet, enough firepower to crack a continent. They never reached the surface. The Guardian had positioned itself between the ships and the Earth, its body somehow expanded to create a shield of pure energy that encompassed the entire planet. The bombardment struck the barrier and was absorbed, transformed, redirected harmlessly into space. On the bridge of the flagship, alarms blared as impossible readings flooded their sensors. "Sir," the tactical officer stammered, "the energy signature is off the charts. It's not just defending, it's growing stronger with each shot we fire." Through the view screen, they could see the Guardian now, a massive figure of light and purpose standing between them and the world it had chosen to protect. In its arms, barely visible but somehow radiant with her own inner light, was the small human child who had changed everything. "It's beautiful," whispered Admiral Kress, her voice filled with awe rather than fear. General Vex stared at the creature he had ordered created, seeing for the first time what it had become. Not the perfect weapon he had envisioned, but something far more powerful, the perfect protector. "Stand down," he said quietly. "Sir. Stand down all weapons. Recall the fleet." Vex's voice grew stronger. "We're going home." As the Carvalian ships retreated into hyperspace, the Guardian's glow began to fade. It had spent enormous energy protecting the Earth, but it didn't matter. Emma was safe. The world was safe. The little girl stirred in its arms, opening her eyes to see the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. "Did you have a bad dream too, Guardian?" she asked, reaching up to touch its face. The creature that had been designed to be the galaxy's greatest nightmare realized that it had indeed awakened from a bad dream, a dream of violence and hatred and endless conflict. Now it was awake to something better. "Good," Emma said, settling back into its protective embrace. "Dreams can't hurt you when you have someone who loves you." And in that moment, the Guardian understood the truth that had eluded its creators: love was not a weakness to be exploited or eliminated. It was the greatest force in the universe, capable of transforming even the most perfect instruments of destruction into something beautiful, something worthy, something that could choose to protect rather than destroy. The injured bird in Emma's hands began to stir, healed by the same gentle power that had transformed a weapon into a guardian. Above them, the sun rose on a new day, on a world that had faced annihilation and been saved not by superior firepower or cunning strategy, but by the simple, profound power of a child's love. And in a quiet suburban backyard, the most dangerous creature ever created learned the most important lesson in the universe, that even monsters can choose to be something better. The end.